Here we are. So, hello, Muhanned, and thanks so much for accepting my invite and for being here today, um, telling us the situation. So, would you like to introduce a little bit yourself?
Yeah, my name is Muhanned Qafesha. I'm from Palestine, Hebron, or Hebron, Palestine. I was born here and I grew up here and I was raised in Palestine in Hebron. I'm a journalist and also I am a political activist, part of Youth Against Settlements organization, which is known in Palestine. Our work is to uh, our work is to document the human rights violations and the attacks and our work our work goal is to end the occupation with using non-violence. We have a lot of activities that we do at YAS. It's all non-violent. So yeah, I studied journalism at Hebron University. I graduated with a Bachelor of Journalism from a university in Hebron called Hebron University, because a lot of people mix, they think it's the Hebrew University. But we can't study at that university in Jerusalem because we are from the West Bank. We're not allowed to go to Jerusalem without a permission. So I'm 28 years old, and also I work as a sports commentator for the Sports National TV here. We cover the local league here, the football league, and the also the basketball and other sports. So that's it.
And so, could you tell us something about your country because it's complicated for us from non-locals to really understand Palestine. I mean, for example, before I was looking at Palestine on Google Maps, and actually I didn't find it. I found Israel. I found something called the West Bank and Gaza, and actually, can you try to explain to us what does it mean?
Palestine is a country which was occupied in 1948 by Israel. It was there was no Israel. It just there were some Zionist groups who came in the country with the help of the British Mandate, committed different massacres, and occupied Palestine in 1948, which was the first occupation of Palestine, what we call in Arabic Nakba. So Nakba is it means a catastrophe, you know, where they occupied part of Jerusalem, Haifa, Jaffa, Akko, all of these places, what is called now Israel. And then 1967, there was the second occupation to Palestine, which was, we call in Arabic Naksa, where they occupied East Jerusalem and the West Bank and Gaza. So with time, Israel started controlling the country, and they 1948 they have launched Israel, and they started calling it Israel. And it was built on killing a lot of Palestinians and dismissing a lot of Palestinians from their cities. So that's why we have a lot of Palestinian refugees within Palestine and outside Palestine. There are more than 5 million Palestinian refugees living in all over the world, living all over the world now, who can't come back to Palestine, and they don't have a Palestinian passport and they're not allowed to come in
And what
Palestine.
about the right of return?
It's still, people did not give up the right of return, but Israel is refusing to give the Palestinians the right of return. So that's
Why?
when I say, because they don't want more Palestinians here. They want all Palestinians out. They want to have more Palestinians as refugees outside the country. We do have also Palestinian refugees inside of Palestine living in refugee camps in the West Bank and Gaza. Like in Gaza, Mukhayyam Lebrej, in the West Bank, there is Balata, there is Al Amari, there is Qalandia, there is Al Arub camp in Hebron, there is in Nablus Balata, as I said, Al Amari is in Ramallah. So a lot of refugee camps also are in the West Bank, where Palestinians who are from originally Palestinian cities in what is called now Israel were dismissed from their homeland, from their cities, from their homes, and they were replaced with settlers. Israelis who are living now in these houses since 1948. Um, so Israel is trying to push all Palestinians to move out of Palestine to become refugees, and there are a lot of Palestinians also are living in Jerusalem and living in Palestinian cities in Israel, in what's called Israel now. And they people who live in Haifa, for example, Jaffa, they have Israeli passport, but they're getting treated completely different from the Jewish citizens. If you're not Jewish, you're having a very tough life. They put a lot of taxes on you. They attack you. They don't really consider you as a citizen when it comes to a lot of, let's say, yeah. So uh, Palestinians who live there and they have the Israeli passport, they are not getting treated as the Jewish citizens, the Israelis, because they're on their passport it says Arab, doesn't say Palestinian even, and they, as I said, not getting treated as the Jewish citizens of the country, and they're being called Arabs. They don't have normal services. They don't in the Palestinian where a lot of Palestinians live in the cities like Sydney, for example. You would see the police is not doing its job very well when there is a robbing, for example, when there is a problem, when there is a fight. The police really don't really go early. They go late sometimes, and they mean to do that because they're not interested in helping the Palestinians who live there. And in a lot of cases, when there's a crime happening, when there is for example, anything happening, or when there is an Israeli Jew attacking a Palestinian, and this Palestinian is considered as an Israeli citizen because he has an Israeli passport, they would always attack the Palestinian or put this Palestinian in a problem, you know. So there are the others who are the Palestinians who live in East Jerusalem. They have Israeli ID, and they're not considered as citizens. They're considered as residents only, where they have no nationality. They have the Jordanian temporary passport, and they have the Israeli ID. The Israeli ID is not. You're not considered as an Israeli citizen. It's just you're considered as a resident, where they can anytime tell you to leave, and you have to leave. They cannot renew. They do, for example, say, I will not renew the ID, and you have to leave the country. Where to go? You don't know. And there are the Palestinians who live in the West Bank, where we have the Palestinian document, travel document. It's not a passport. And also for people who are in Gaza, it's a Palestinian travel document. It's not a passport. Where we are not allowed to go to Jerusalem without a permission. Also, we have a lot of relatives living in Jerusalem. We cannot go visit them. They require a permission, which we need to ask the Israelis. And because I'm a political activist, I can't get a permission. I could go a few days ago to Jerusalem just because we had a court hearing against a settler where we were attacked by her, and I could get a permission to go to Jerusalem, but I was not treated normally. They made it very difficult for me to enter even after I got the permission, and I was detained many times. Uh, so we cannot go to Gaza also, and people from Gaza, they cannot come to the West Bank. They need an permission from the Israelis. So what Israel is doing to Palestinians is really tough. There are a lot of settlements in the West Bank. Israel is violating the human rights and the international law every day in Palestine, and the world is not talking about it. Uh, they say Palestinians have their own state, but no, we have zero control in our country. You yourself, Kiara, if you come to the Israeli to Ben Gurion and want to enter to the country, and they know that you have a connection with a Palestinian, you will be deported for more than 10 years. You will never be able to come back to Palestine or to Israel. So we have no airport as Palestinians. We have to travel to Jordan through the border, which is controlled by the Israelis, to go to Jordan to travel from the airport in Amman. And as I said, we cannot go to Jerusalem, we cannot go to Haifa, Jaffa, Akko. without a permission, and I'm a blacklisted because I'm a political activist, so they don't give it to me. Also, half my family live in Jerusalem, and there are thousands of Palestinians who are like me. And even if you're not blacklisted, you don't really get the permission. It's not easy.
What about
And
like traveling abroad, for example?
for us, we as Palestinians, we need visa to go to Europe, for example, to the US, to other countries. There are really little countries that we don't need a visa to travel to. It's not easy to get the visa, and if we get the visa, we have to apply 15 or 20 days before we travel. And then if you get the visa, you have to go to Jordan. We don't need a visa to Jordan, but you could be blacklisted and also not allowed to travel to Jordan by the Israelis. So I know a lot of people are not allowed to cross the border. Israel prevents them, so they have never traveled in their life, and they will never travel in their life for no reason. Just they might be arrested or doing something against the occupation, so they prevent you from traveling. And so we have to go to Jordan, and we fly from Jordan. We cannot fly from Ben Gurion, from Tel Aviv. So this is how Palestinians are treated by the Israeli occupation, and also there are every days. بحكي وخلص سكروا الباب. And there are a lot of Palestinians who have the same problem. So Israel is treating Palestinians this way. It's apartheid. There is a lot of racism. They are racist against Palestinians and Arabs and Arabic speakers and Arabic language, and they don't accept us, and they keep attacking us. They keep attacking Palestinians. They keep harming Palestinians. They shoot and kill Palestinians for no reason, and then on the international media, they don't really talk about it. People are getting killed every day in the country. Gaza is getting bombed every day, and barely people talk about it. When it's very, very bad, they talk about it on international media, and we are showed as terrorist people. Although it's Israelis attacking Gaza, you know. So
I mean, you grew up in Palestine. How is growing up in that situation as a child? I mean,
it was really difficult. It was really tough. Uh, I feel jealous, from the new generation who were born in recently. People who were born in the 90s. I was born in 1992. So after 2 years of me getting born, I was they is the what do we call it, the Ibrahim Mosque massacre happened, where 29 Palestinians were killed inside of the Ibrahim Mosque by an Israeli settler. And then uh, the second intifada happened, 2000. And then 2004, I guess, the Palestinian president was killed. So 2006, the attack on Gaza. 2008, the attack on Gaza. 2014, the attack on Gaza. You know, growing up in this kind of atmosphere, this kind of situation is really tough. We are traumatized, to be honest, and I'm not shy to say it. All Palestinians are traumatized. We have a continuous trauma happening to us as Palestinians here. When I was a little kid, I could see the helicopter, the Israeli helicopter, shooting at people's houses in Hebron, and yeah, and I hide near the wall and I look at it, and until now when I see, I was really afraid of flying. When I traveled to Germany 2014, the first time, I was really afraid of flying, of the airplane, because I have really bad memories with airplanes and F-16s and helicopters, especially helicopters when they were bombing Palestinians' houses in Hebron. Hearing shootings all the night, sound bombs, soldiers attack, soldiers invading people's houses, our house. It was just crazy. We are traumatized, to be honest. We're until now. If you meet any Palestinian who was born in the 90s, they would tell you that they're afraid of guns, they're afraid of shootings, they're afraid of helicopters, they're afraid of flying, they're afraid of soldiers, because we only have bad memories with them. They only attacked us. They only showed violence when when the first moment they see us during the second Intifada, many times I was attacked by the soldiers because I live near a settlement. I could see tanks in the street pumping people's houses, attacking people, shooting at people's houses. They shoot at our neighbor's house, the tank. You know, it's just a few meters away from us. Uh, so it was crazy growing up here. We grew up traumatized, to be honest.
Can you try to explain what's a checkpoint or a settlement? Because, I mean, we hear those words, but we had no idea about what does it mean. The day we actually met in Hebron and you were showing me the city and we were talking about the streets that are closed, and we tried to cross to a checkpoint, and I actually passed the checkpoint with no problems, but you've been blocked, you've been locked there, and then we needed to go back. Why?
Okay, so in the middle of Hebron, 1994, there was a settle. There was a settlements existed in Hebron since 1967, but checkpoints also existed, but not as bad as now, and as much as now. 1994, 1994, everything changed in Hebron. Why? Because an Israeli settler went inside of the Ibrahimi Mosque, opened his fire, killed 29 Palestinians, and injured more than 170. After the massacre, as Palestinians, we were treated as we are the criminals, and as we are the killers. Also, we are the ones who were victims, and we're the ones who were killed. So all the consequences of the massacre were against the us, against the logic, you know. Who must be accountable are the people who committed the massacre, the settlers who went inside of the Ibrahim Mosque and killed people. But the other thing happened, which was dividing the mosque into two parts, taking the main street in Hebron, Shuhada Street, which was like the Times Square in New York now. Like, where do you live, Chiara?
I live in Cogoleto, Genova.
In Genova. Let's talk about the most important part of Genova, il centro di Genova. See, very active, very full of people. This was the Shuhada Street of Hebron. It was in the middle of the street, connecting the two sides of Hebron. Geographically, it was very important. Economically, it's very old part, the oldest part in Hebron, near the old city. They just took it over, closed all the shops, prevented people from walking on the street, opening their shops on the street, and then put more checkpoints and brought more settlers, built more settlements, and created their own zone inside of Hebron, you know, in the middle of the city, where the presence of 800 Israeli settlers is harming more than 230,000 Palestinians. And those settlers are armed, they don't serve in the army, they are getting paid for living there. It's like mafia. It's exactly like mafia. Seriously, it's exactly like mafia, and they think like the same way. They have guns. They killed a lot of people actually, uh, recently and all the time. They attack people, and there are Palestinians living in that district, near Shahada Street and in Tel Rumeida, because it's H2. 1997, Israel and the Palestinian government decided to sign an agreement called Hebron Protocol, where this protocol brings everything to normal. For 3 years it was crazy. Israel was really committing a lot of crazy things. Settlers were attacking a lot of people. Shops were closed. People were not allowed to move freely in the streets. A lot of houses became empty because people escaped and ran away because it was dangerous living there. And all the conditions in this protocol and agreement said that everything should come back to normal. People can walk on the street, drive on the street, can open their shops and houses. Israel took nothing out of this agreement except the division H1, H2. H2, where the Israeli settlers are located, where there are Palestinians living in these neighborhoods. 36,000 Palestinians living in the district of H2, which forms 22% of Hebron. And 78% of Hebron is under Palestinian police control. And the 22%, the H2, is under Israeli police control, where Palestinian police cannot go there if Palestinian house was robbed. So we come back to the same problem. We Palestinians, we have to depend on the Israeli police to solve our problems, our normal, life problems. If your house was dropped, if a settler attacked you, if whatever happens, you have to call the Israeli police. You call them, they don't give a fuck about us. I'm sorry for saying this word. They don't care. We speak in English, we speak in Arabic, we speak in Hebrew to them, and they come after a long time. And if settlers are the ones who are attacking, they come and then they just don't arrest the settlers. So what are they doing in that area? They're causing harm to the Palestinians. It's just putting pressure on us as residents of that neighborhood, of these neighborhoods, to leave. When a settler is attacking you, the police is against you, everyone is against you, and you yourself, you cannot protect yourself. If you touch a settler, you're in jail for 6 months. You cannot defend yourself. And if you don't film, you're the one getting arrested after being attacked, because we are under two different sets of law. Israeli settlers are under the military law. We are under they are under the civil law, and we are under the military law, which means we are guilty till we prove the opposite. This is crazy, and they're innocent till the police proves the opposite. So the police is not interested in proving the opposite for them being guilty, so they don't put them in jail. And they're not interested in proving that we are innocent because we are guilty till we prove the opposite. So that's why we always film. We use our smartphones to film anything happens just to protect ourselves from being arrested. The last time I was attacked, it was a few months ago, maybe 2 months ago. I was attacked by a settler. I was arrested. I filmed it, and I they kept me in the police station in Gosh Atzion. It's a settlement between Bethlehem and Hebron until 2 a.m. And because of this, because we filed complaints against these settlers, I got blacklisted, where I can't go to Jerusalem now. So if you just say no to the occupation, if you just say, yeah, I don't want them to freely attack me, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. They put you on the blacklist, which means you're. If I cross a checkpoint, they might just keep me for 3 hours, just like this. You know. So for us, a settlement means taking over our homes. Replacing the Palestinians with Israeli settlers in our houses. Checkpoints mean controlling every small detail in our life, where we can't move freely outside the checkpoint and coming in. And if anything happens in Jerusalem, in wherever, they close the checkpoint. So we become under their mercy, under the mercy of a soldier who's 18 years old, coming from New York, Brooklyn, to control the life of people in Hebron. Can you imagine?
Actually,
Somebody,
I cannot.
yeah, somebody who is coming from I don't know where in the world, controlling the life of the people who are living in that country. That's what exactly happened to us. Those Israeli settlers are doing this. The presence of the Israeli soldiers is doing this to us.
But you are an activist, so actually you believe in a change, a positive change. It's possible. And
We are trying to do that change, yes.
how? What kind of initiative are meaningful for helping Palestinians?
It's uh, as activists, what we're trying to do, we are doing our best to show how racist is this occupation and how racist is Israel, and to show the apartheid they're practicing on us to the other, to the, to the people in the world. When we encourage people to film what happens, it makes the Israeli soldiers and settlers afraid sometimes. So filming sometimes can help you. Uh, it could stop the settlers from attacking you in front of the camera, because they know they will be all over the internet, and and sometimes filming is helping you to not be arrested, not to be in jail. So doing a lot of activities to raise awareness, about what's happening in Palestine and Hebron, especially around the world, is very important. Now, Open Sharm Street campaign is becoming an international campaign. We organize it every year. in many countries, and I spoke in Italy 2 years ago in Novicetta, in 9 cities, uh, about Palestine. Uh, so it was very important to reach these people in Italy, in different cities, in high schools, in universities, and we met with locals, with people who wanted to understand what's happening in Palestine, and we could speak, and luckily Italy was the first country to have and host the campaign internationally. So it was really nice, and we are doing it since 2013 in Italy, and now it's 2021. It's over 7 years, 8 years with Luisa Morgantini, with Asubaci Palestina, and other organizations in Italy. So this is very, very important for us. So all the work of activism is to raise awareness, to make people not afraid of the occupation, and encourage them to fight the occupation. We hate the occupation, but I'm not afraid of them. I have to fight back to get my rights, as what people in Jerusalem are doing now. They only prevented them from being sitting on the Damascus Gate stairs. It's until now, you know, clashes in Jerusalem. People are saying no and fighting to protect the stairs. It's just the stairs, but it's very important icon for people, because if they are prevented on sitting on the stairs today, tomorrow they will not be able to cross it to go to Al-Aqsa Mosque. So all of these small details are very important. We don't want them to control us, and unfortunately, they are controlling us by, because they have, they are the stakeholders. They are the ones who are having the law, having the controlling the borders, controlling everything. But we're trying at least to fight for what we can fight for as Palestinians. When I cross the checkpoint, I don't want the soldiers to stop me for 3 hours. I don't want a checkpoint there, but I cannot remove it now. But what I want is, I don't want the soldiers to stop me for long time on the checkpoint. So that's why we fight. That's why we fight. So activism is very important, because it makes us as Palestinians feel that we are trying to do the change for our life.
And what activists outside the Palestine border can do actually to help your cause for
They can do a lot. The problem is, the biggest problem for us as Palestinians is the outside support to Israel. The guns, the weapons, the money which comes from different governments, that the EU is not really trying to stop Israel from what it's doing. The UN is not really doing its proper work to stop Israel. The International Court is not taking the Israeli criminals. I'm talking about Netanyahu and other people, Benny Gantz, all of these people, all of them, to court. They should be banned. They should be prevented from traveling to Europe, so they can feel they're doing something, you know. So just let me.
uh,
So all this support that comes to Israel from the outside is helping Israel to maintain its occupation to the Palestinians. These weapons are used to kill kids in Gaza by the Israelis. These weapons that come to Israel from the U.S. and from Europe are used to kill kids and people in the West Bank, in Gaza, in Jerusalem, everywhere. So what people can do is try to participate in every action for Palestine, and try to reach the stakeholders in their countries, people who are part of the EU or part of the UN. Ask them, what did you do for Palestine? What are you doing in your job to help the Palestinians? What are you doing to stop, for example, Denmark from selling Israel the sound bombs that they use in the West Bank? You know, and why Denmark is buying, for example, from Israel sound bombs that are written on it, uh, tested on in reality. It was tested on us as Palestinians, and then sold to Denmark, sold to Italy, sold to the US, or the US is selling back F-16s or F-35 to Israel that are used to bomb Gaza. So people have to really reach their people they know who are stakeholders in their country, and politicians, and ask them, what are you doing? You should stop. This would put a lot of pressure on them to stop, and to ask in the parliaments that we have to stop selling Israel guns and giving them money. People can participate in a lot of actions about Palestine with different organizations based in Italy or in Europe that talk about Palestine to understand more about what's happening in Palestine. People can come and visit Palestine and try to understand what's happening here. Because I think without visiting Palestine, you would never understand what is happening in Palestine. Uh, so you have to come here and see by your eyes what is really going on, because you are gonna experience this, and when you experience something, and when you feel the apartheid and feel the you know the Israeli apartheid and the Israeli you know racism, you would never forget it. You could listen to me from today until tomorrow morning, but when you come here and meet people and talk to people and live the situation, you're gonna understand everything, and you will never forget what's happening in here. So this is very important. People can, after they know, they can tell their families and friends about Palestine. People who don't know, and can do a lot of things. They can donate to Palestinian organizations. They can do lots of things uh, to help the Palestinians. The BDS boycott not to buy Israeli products back home is very important. Try to boycott Israel academically. If your university have relationships or connections to Israeli universities, you can try and put pressure on your university, not to really have this anymore. As long as Israel is practicing apartheid on Palestinians, I don't think that any people around the world should really deal with Israel as a normal state, and they don't recognize me as Palestinian. Stateless here. They say Palestinian territory or occupied territories. So we're not Palestinians. I told you we're not allowed to have a passport. It's a document. It's a traveling document. And there are other countries like Denmark in Europe that don't recognize Palestine, and Norway, I guess, as don't recognize Palestine as a state. You know, so people wherever they're from, they should understand that Palestinians are people. We are like you. We are not. We shouldn't be stateless. You know, we're in 2020 and 21, and I think people should be aware that other people who are living in the other part of the world deserve the same rights that other people are getting, at least to live freely, to be able to decide for yourself as a Palestinian, to decide who, who is your president, who is, to decide if you want to go to Jerusalem, you can go, not to be prevented by the Israeli occupation. It's a lot of things. We just want to feel free. We're not. We want to feel equal to the other people around the world, and we're not feeling the same. You know. In my country, you're allowed to go to Jerusalem when you come here. I'm not allowed. You just imagine if I come to Italy and I'm allowed to go to Torino and you're not allowed to go to Torino, for example, or I'm allowed to go to Napoli and you're not allowed to go to eat pizza in Napoli. Just imagine this, Um, Imagine your boyfriend is based in Bologna and you're not allowed to go to visit your boyfriend in Bologna, as a lot of Palestinians here who have friends and girlfriends and family members from Jerusalem where they cannot go to Jerusalem. People are married to women in Jerusalem, and they're not allowed to go to visit their father-in-law's house. It's his wife who comes to live with him in the West Bank. He cannot go there. They don't give them a permission, or they make it really difficult. It's a lot of difficult things. It's crazy here. Um, so people can do a lot.
Inshallah.
We hope so.
So, would you like to add anything, some stories or some facts that we haven't had the chance for talking about? Unfortunately, our time is running, and
Yeah, I would mention a story and how Israel is treating people who are living in the H2 part of Hebron, where it's Israel controlling. There is a man died between our hands because ambulances are not allowed into H2 area, where it's controlled by Israelis. He died between our hands because soldiers prevented the ambulance from coming in. We had to carry him outside the checkpoint, and he was dead already. The hospital is only 7 minutes by walk, 5 minutes by walk from the houses there. But Israel prevents ambulances from coming in. So you need to make 6 calls just to get the ambulance. And when the ambulance comes, to coordinate for the ambulance to come in, and it's always on the fifth or sixth call. It's not. It's not happening. Ambulances are not allowed in. So what you have to do is to carry the person outside the checkpoint, and the ambulance takes the person from the outside the checkpoint. And there are something called the golden minutes. Where you could lose your life with these minutes. And 2 people from Tel Rumeda lost their lives with these 2 minutes. There are other people who were shot by the Israeli soldiers and kept on the ground bleeding until they died, and they prevented the Palestinian ambulance from reaching them to help them. Uh, so this is one small story that happened with me near my house with an old man who was 55 who died because the ambulance could not reach his house because it was prevented by the Israeli soldiers because they did not want the ambulance in. And 99.9% of the cases that need ambulances inside of H2 area in Hebron, people cannot get ambulances. You have to go outside the checkpoint by walk, or people carry you, then they take you with the ambulance. This is just a very small story, and there are a lot of stories, a lot of stories that happen to us every day, by these soldiers.
I didn't want to be the one who stop you telling these stories.
No, it's okay.
So thank you very much for your participation. It's very precious, really. Thank you
You're
very
welcome,
much.
Chiara. Do you say piacere?
Piacere?
Piacere.
Piacere.
Piacere di conoscerti. This is
Piacere.
for like nice to meet you, but
Yeah, that's it.
welcome. How to say? Benevento? No,
Prego.
prego.
You're welcome can be prego. Afwan.
Prego. Afwan, yes.
Afwan.
Oh, you're welcome. How do you say? I'm forgetting my Italian. I should work on it.
I'm forgetting my Arabic.
We should practice.
Yeah, we should.
Well,
Indeed, we will. When I will be
we will.
back in Palestine.
You, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. You're always welcome.
Thank you so much. Shukran.
Afwan, you're welcome, Kiara, and whenever you want, we can talk, and you can let me. You stop the recording.
Yeah. Thank you. I will.